We are fighting a Bidoof with my Shinx that seems to not be able to do a whole lot of damage. And we were talking about... well, we were talking about the Switch in general and games on it that should be able to function, or can kind of function. It's questionable sometimes. All it is working on it. But yeah, they're not working on it. Understanding what is and is not viable for certain things. Like, I think the Pokemon Company got in over their head trying to do a bigger open world catching area, which I don't mind it. It's just it probably needed a lot more work put in before they put it out there. Like, if we could see a lot more pushbacks on video games, I would honestly be happy with it, just because it's nice to see that game companies are willing to work with their employees to put effort into making sure things are correct, rather than trying to force them to get games done on a deadline. But also, I do understand that pushing back a game could mean they're having to add more to it, or they're having to cut it out as DLC or something like that, which in itself is bad. But overall, there's just... everything's a pain. Everything is pain. Life is pain. You have to put up with it. Oh well. I can handle it most of the time. I freak out sometimes personally, but like I said, handled. I don't know where I'm going on this tangent. I'm fine. Just enjoying playing some Pokemon. Like, I always feel the need to defend it. I always have the need to try and defend Pokemon. And I really don't need to. Like, Pokemon's Pokemon. You like it, you don't. It's fine. If you can enjoy the game for any number of reasons, it's fine. Chimchar gains 17 experience. Alright, Kricketot. Need to heal up my team. We'll make our way forward eventually. I just want to get them... I want to get the team into a position where they can actually fight for themselves. Because having to rely on Chimchar means that Chimchar is going to get a lot more powerful than the rest of them, and then when he evolves, it creates an issue. What have we got here? It is a Bidoof at level 3. Bide. Tackle. Yep, storing energy. Let's go. Bidoof, hit him hard. Not bad. And I said Bidoof, but I meant Kricketot. No, because that'll make him faint. I'll put Shinx out to finish this off. If Shinx faints, that's fine. Temporarily, at least. Intimidate cuts wild Bidoof's attack. Tackle does critical damage. Okay. I will say it feels like this game cheats a little bit. Just because I had an instance when I was testing the game where I got bit 3 times in a row, and all 3 times was flinched in the middle of a gym battle. So I literally could not do anything to fight back against a gym leader. Which is very annoying. I was also curious because my 2 days for solo games are going to be Monday and Wednesday. Would you rather see this Monday or Dragon Ball Kakarot Monday? It's just something that came. Yeah. Like, in later games, they cheat less, but, you know, in Sun and Moon, I think they started, like, min-maxing the IV and EV training of certain trainers, which creates its own issue, too. But yeah. It's just all it's all a bit of a pain. Trying to game a system. Yeah, they'll both get a showing, it's just what would be better for the Pokemon fans, essentially. Mondays or Wednesdays. Almost forgot. Almost messed up. I'm trying to train the Kricketot so I can let the others faint for a bit. Bidoof used Tackle. Starly used Tackle. So if you take your Pokemon to a Pokemon Center, Pokerus you'll be told that a Pokemon has Pokerus. Which Pokerus is no longer a mandatory thing for EV training as long as you know what you're doing. Like, I EV trained a group of Pokemon in Sword and Shield primarily just by using the new system they have in Sword and Shield, which is kind of a neat one. But more often than not, and can you even see my mouse on that? No, you can't. So more often than not, though, Pokerus appears on the Pokemon screen over beside where the shiny stars would show up. So if you're looking at a Pokemon in summary, it would help. It's just it doubles the amount of bonuses you get from it, and they may have done away with Pokerus. Oh, it's not in this screen. Let me bring up the proper. It technically is an STD, yeah. It transmits from Pokemon to Pokemon. As if it were an STD. But Pokerus. It usually has an icon on it. Yeah, so if you look on this Bulbapedia page and look down, you actually have a status icon that your Pokemon can get. Yeah. Like, underneath everything, like towards the bottom, it shows you the icons that tell you whether or not your Pokemon has Pokerus. And usually a Pokemon that gets Pokerus you'll be told by, what is it? Nurse Joy when you go to heal your Pokemon. Like it has some kind of special trait to it, or in the health check she does, it brings up, oh, this Pokemon has Pokerus, which means it gains the hidden values quicker. Which is cool, but it also recovers from Pokerus at a certain point too. But you can transfer Pokerus to other Pokemon in your party by keeping them on you. And then you can essentially keep transferring it into more Pokemon. But if the Pokemon is cured from the virus, it no longer gains the benefit of Pokerus and cannot recatch Pokerus. Like, I don't know what the RUS is stated for. Oh, Pokemon virus. Okay, that makes sense. I had to check on the page. But yeah, like, overall, it's just kind of that. You gain it, you earn it, you transfer it to your Pokemon. It's just, the process of getting Pokerus is a random thing. It's completely random whether or not you get it. So I would never rely on it. Like, it is so much easier to get, like, the training bands and the stuff that doubles your stats anyways. Well, it can come from fresh caught, it can come from traded Pokemon, it can really be anything. But the easiest way to get it is to know someone that has a Pokemon that has an active form of it. And then trade. Then walk around with your Pokemon, battle with your Pokemon, and let your team gain the virus. And it's just, it is so much easier to not go through the process of trying to earn it yourself, realistically. Because past a certain point, like, if you're not doing competitive stuff, you really don't need to care about your IVs and EVs. Unless you're taking on competitive and or... what's the other option there? Like the Battle Tower stuff, where your Pokemon are leveled to 50 and you have to put a little more strategy into it. Like, in standard games, it's really not worth it because you can just out-level most things. That and the team you are playing through with, like this right here, you're never gonna get strong enough in one category because you can't just sit and wait on one Pokemon to level a status up way too much. Now you could get to, I know in this game it is Machop that is trained on most of the time for attack EVs. So, you know, I could take this to the first gym and start training on Machops, because there's an area above where the first gym is that is just chock full of Machop, and I have to fight 252 of them until my attack is maxed out. And then going from there, any Pokemon that has the attack stat, you can keep maxing them out by just backtracking. A lot of people use low-level Pokemon to do this because they don't want to level up quickly. They want the status buffs long before you get chock full of Machop. They want the status buffs long before they start leveling and evolving Pokemon. Like, I think Starly, this on screen, does speed IVs. Or no, EVs. IVs are independent values, EVs are effort values. And it's if you're gonna try and do that through a game, you literally have to start your game with the intent that none of the Pokemon you start with matter. Like, you just play to get to where you need to get, and then start leveling up your Pokemon by buffing them through stats like that. And the difference of what your max and min stats can be is massive, especially if you build into a Pokemon's strengths. Like in Sword and Shield, because I did effort value training, I have Pokemon with well over 300 in their speed stat, while also having well near 400 in their special attack stat. So it is a special sweeper. I hit first, and I hit hard. But I've also got tanky Pokemon that are buffed by the... Like, I've got Aegislash and Tyranitar. In a duel battle, I put them out first because the Sandstorm that Tyranitar puts out buffs the stat. No, 255 is the effort value. But the actual stats, as you level, they can go into, Chansey? If you actually max out the 255 effort values that Chansey needs, I think when it is Blissey, it can have over 700 health. And then you stack that with the Gigamax stuff that doubles the health, and it's kind of ridiculous. Like, health is definitely your best defensive stat. Like, let me see. I can find the page real quick. Alright, let's go with Blissey. Like, Blissey in itself is just a ridiculously defensive Pokemon. Yeah, so Blissey has 255 in its base stat. Then has, like, if you can get 31 in its individual values, as well as 255 into its HP stat for proper values, you can hit 714 health. And as its baseline, can have 247 special defense and 22 normal defense, but having 700 plus HP is where it gets to be ridiculous. Like Blissey here. Like, I've learned a lot about I've learned a lot about how IVs and EVs work. Like, if you want a tanky Pokemon, give it a little bit of buff into something it's weak at, and then drop everything else into health. Because it already naturally is tanky against one damage type. If you make it a little bit tankier against another, it's ridiculous. Like, but yeah, overall, it is just kind of ridiculous how that works. Because health is always going to be the highest stat you can reach, I believe, unless under your health, like, you've put nothing into it. And then you've taken, like, a Pokemon, like an attack type Deoxys, and drop all of the effort values into attack. I think you can actually outweigh his attack versus his health. But attack type Deoxys is not actually as good as a speed type Deoxys, because speed type has a decent attack, whereas the attack type doesn't have as much speed. Like, there's all kinds of strategy around truthfully effort value training a Pokemon. And it takes a lot out of my brain to even consider doing effort value training. And more often than not, the fastest way to start over an effort value Pokemon is to breed a whole new Pokemon. Hey, Starly learned Quick Attack. Alright. So everyone's level 5. That means they should be able to handle themselves going forward. I also feel like Platinum seems to not give out that much experience for battles. Fuse Tackle. That and a lot of their trainers are kind of toned back, which is a bit strange to me. Yeah, on the Blissey page that I just shared, what you'll need to do is scroll down to where the base stats say, and you can just check out any Pokemon like that, and it's kind of ridiculous how high some of the stats can get on the specialized Pokemon. Like, no, you don't even split. So you do 255 into health, or I think it was changed to 252 at some point, but you put the max into health, then you boost the special to match where you boost the physical to match where special is. And then you put the rest into whatever attack type you're using. Because you always want to give a little bit of a buff into their attack on that situation. Like, you want a tanky Pokemon, but you also want them to be able to hit back kind of hard. Like, you might want to put all 255 into physical defense, just so it can't be demolished by a fighting type Pokemon. Like, on sweepers, you want to put everything into the attack type it's using, and then into speed. On your tanky Pokemon, it's health, then buff whatever defense they have less of. And in a lot of situations, the defense they have less of, you can also, like Tyranitar. Tyranitar, because of Sandstorm, gets additional special defense when the Sandstorm is raging, because it is a rock type. Like I think Rock, Steel, and Ground get a defensive boost to special defense whenever a Sandstorm is raging. Tyranitar naturally creates its own Sandstorm, so you don't even have to attack with it, you just have to send it out. Like, overall, Tyranitar is a really good defensive Pokemon. But can also, and if you're going to play him defensive, you can put a bunch into health, a bunch into his physical attack, so you have a tank that puts out, like, Earthquake with maxed damage, or, I forget what it's called now, Crunch with huge amounts of damage. Because he's already tanky for having a bunch of health, rather than trying to split it into special and physical. Like, I can... it's out in the car. Like, I was gonna say, towards the end of stream, I could show you kind of how I built my Tyranitar, but I think I'll hold off on that for now. Like, for Blissey, what makes it super tanky in Pokemon Go is the fact that it doesn't matter what attack it's using, it still gets to defend as long as it's alive. Like, it doesn't matter if it has the ability to hurt someone. Yeah, you just... Because of a lot of extrapolated variables, Pokemon is so much more confusing when you're trying to do a competitive team. And my team's not even competitive. I have 5 pseudo-legendaries and an Aegislash. What it's good for is overpowering the battle tower, so you can just make your way through it. You're done. You're golden. It's handled. What it is bad for is against people that kind of know how the game works. So they see you with, 3 pseudo-legendaries, or 5 pseudo-legendaries, all 5 of them that are available in the game. Most of them are weak to dragon, or water, or fighting. Then your Aegislash. Aegislash might be an issue for them, but also Aegislash, if it's not used correctly, can cause its own downfall. There we go, Kricketot. Because Aegislash, the ability to change between its forms, is good and bad at the same time. But yeah. And there's a lot of different ways you can use a Pokemon. Like, in my very first Gotta Catch 'Em All series, in Pokemon Yellow, I had an Ivysaur, who was at the front of my party going up against Blaine. And because with the Ivysaur I mixed Leech Seed, Toxic, and Giga Drain, I was able to just outright survive as my opponents, as Blaine, the fire trainer's gym, the fire gym leader, just kind of melted in front of me. Because toxic damage increases every time, but if a Pokemon is poisoned, Leech Seed and Giga Drain both do more damage and more healing. So my underleveled, underpowered grass type beats up the fire type gym without issue because of strategy. Like, not even necessarily because of stats. It's just like it's confusing to make strategy work. But a lot of things stack together. Like, I only recently learned about the status buffs that Sandstorm gives to ground, steel, and rock types, which is kind of amazing. Like, rain and sun do other things than what's just effective when a move goes off. But like, harsh sunlight is not just for making sure your solar beam goes off first. I believe it gives grass types better special defense. And I think, like, synthesis is improved and other things. So you just have to learn how to make things work in a better light if you're definitely going to try and do competitive stuff. Or even if it's just for Battle Tower related stuff. You have to make sure you know what abilities your Pokemon have and whether or not the ability is good for what you're trying to do. And in duel battles, you need to make sure that the 2 Pokemon you put out first have a really good synergy. Like when I said Aegislash and Tyranitar. Aegislash and Tyranitar now get a buff both to their special defense. I think that I'm not fully remembering it, but you get a buff to your special defense because there's a sandstorm raging. But neither of them take damage from it because steel and ground don't take damage from sandstorm. So not only do you have buffs for yourself, you have a turn damage for, I think, a fifth of or it's like a fifth of the opponent's HP, as well as just kind of your Pokemon in general. And you can lead off by having Tyranitar use Earthquake, Aegislash use some kind of protecting move, which Earthquake hits everyone, but Aegislash protects itself. It's just this balance of learning how to work abilities and moves, stab effects, as well as other things into beating something that's not easy. And sometimes it could just be as simple as having the right strategy. Like having a Pokemon that has a Rough Hide as well as Rocky Helmet. Each one of those, when a Pokemon is attacked physically, takes a lot of damage. Then you take Toxic to do more damage incidentally, as well as adding in something to Drain. It's, I forget which Pokemon it is. It's Ferroseed, I think. But his evolved form can be really tanky, as well as really damaging to people that take too long to take him down, because it can heal itself, it can fix itself, as well as implement Toxic, spikes, and all sorts of other things that make it just hard to fight him. He's not meta, but he is also not something to sleep on if you're doing like online battling. And I'm gonna end the recording there.